Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a really fascinating, kind of unconventional idea about bad laws. Like who's really to blame for them? And get this, what if destiny plays a role in who gets punished? I mean, this is a question people have been asking forever, right? But the source we're looking at today, it gives an answer you probably won't see coming. It completely flips the script. Instead of just asking, should we obey bad laws, it asks, wait a minute, why do we even have them in the first place?
So the lecture kicks off by pointing out a change. In the past, if a law was unjust, the default was to resist it, right? But this argument says, hold on, in the modern world, we need to be a lot smarter, a lot more strategic about it.
Okay, so here's the big idea. These bad laws, Jungbub as they're called, they aren't just random mistakes. They're not just because of a few bad apples in government. No, this viewpoint sees them as a symptom, like a fever. They only show up when the whole of society has gotten, as the source puts it, murky enough that these laws become almost necessary.
All right, so if you've got a society that's riddled with these kinds of flawed laws, how does anyone get anything done? How does life even go on? Well, the answer, according to this lecture, isn't what you'd think. It's not about big public protests. Instead, you get this. People become absolute masters of something called Jungbub. And what is that? Well, it's not about outright breaking the law. It's more like creative navigation, finding those clever loopholes, the little workarounds that let you get around the intent of the law without technically breaking the letter of it. It's all about adapting to the system, not fighting it head-on.
But that leads to a really important question, doesn't it? If everybody's finding ways around these laws, who actually gets caught? Who ends up paying the price? Is it just a roll of the dice, some random bad luck? Well, according to this speaker, absolutely not.
The argument goes that the vast majority of people, we're talking 99%, they get by just fine using these workarounds, which leaves just this tiny fraction, only 1%, who actually get trapped by these bad laws.
And this is where things get really wild. For that 1%, the lecture claims it's not an accident. It's not bad luck. No, these people were fated to be caught. It was their destiny to get snagged by that particular law. Just think about that for a second.
So, okay, let's recap. The system is broken, but most people can get around it. The few who get caught, it was their destiny. So, whose job is it to actually fix this mess? This is where the whole argument takes a sharp turn, and the blame gets placed on a very specific group of people.
Yep. The lecture argues that the blame for these bad laws doesn't fall on the average person, or even the politicians who write them. Nope. It points the finger at one very specific group.
And that group is the Jisikin, the intellectuals, the educated class. According to this viewpoint, the entire burden of this problem, the whole thing, rests squarely on their shoulders. They and they alone are responsible.
So why them? Well, the lecture has a pretty powerful answer for that. It says intellectuals don't just get their education for themselves. They are literally produced by the blood and sweat of the entire nation. And because of that sacrifice, they have a unique duty. Their whole purpose, their reason for being, is to do the hard work of fixing these broken laws.
Okay, so what if they don't do it? What happens if the intellectuals just drop the ball on this huge responsibility? The lecture makes a pretty dark and very direct prediction about that.
And wow, it is a shocking one. The speaker literally says that if the Jisikin fail in their duty, we'll see more and more of them committing suicide. A direct link is drawn between their inaction and their own self-destruction.
Now, the reason for this is really important. It's not because they're poor or having personal problems. The source calls it a kind of punishment. When they don't do their job, their one big job, they feel this immense, crushing weight of failure. It's a failure of their very purpose, and for them specifically, it makes life unbearable.
So after a prediction that grim, you might think it's all doom and gloom. But it's not. The lecture doesn't just leave us there. It actually lays out a path forward, a way to break this cycle and fix the problem for good.
And it all starts with what the source calls an awakening. The intellectuals just have to wake up and realize what their true purpose is. It's work, the lecture insists, that average citizens just can't do. And the cool part is, once they start, even if it's just fixing one single flawed law, it starts a chain reaction, like knocking over the first domino. Eventually, all the bad laws will fall.
So at the end of the day, the takeaway is pretty straightforward. According to this line of thought, seeing bad laws, Jungbub, on the books, isn't your typical political failure. It's a flashing red light, a symptom that the intellectuals are not doing their job.
And that problem is just going to stick around until they step up and fulfill their destiny.
Which, of course, leaves us with a pretty big question to think about, doesn't it? We've just unpacked this really powerful argument that puts the weight of the entire world, or at least the weight of societal progress, on the shoulders of one elite group. It's a pretty challenging idea, and it makes you wonder, who is really responsible for making our society better?